Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So today we'll be studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, and text number 35. So this is the discussion between Kardama Muni is speaking today, or speaking here, and he has just appeared. So we'll see. 3. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So you can chant until like gets on the screen. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Proktam He Lokasya Pramanam Satya Laukike Atha Ajani Maya Tubhyam Yat Avocham Ritam Mune. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya Pramanam Satya Laukike Athajani Maya Tubhyam Yad Avochamritam Mune. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya Pramanam Satya Laukike Athajani Maya Tubhyam Yadavochamritam Mune. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya Pramanam Satya Laukike Athajani Maya Tubhyam Yadavochamritam Mune.
Okay. Okay, Gurudev, we can hear you. Huh? Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya
Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya Paramam Satya Laukike
Athajani Maya Tubhyam
Athajani Maya Tubhyam
Yadavochamritam Mune.
Yadavochamritam Mune. Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya
Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya
Pramanam Satya Laukike
Pramanam Satya Laukike
Athajani Maya Tubhyam
Athajani Maya
Change the material.
Mune
Yadavochamritam
Mune.
Okay, Gurudev, we're ready.
Go down a little bit.
Cool.
Can you bring it down a little bit? Shri
Yeah.
Bhagavan Vacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Proktam Hi Lokasya
Ya Proktam Hi Lokasya
Manam Satya Laukike
Pramanam Satya Laukike
Ajajani Maya Tubhyam.
Athajani Maya Tubhyam.
There's one more line. Yad Avocham Ritam Mune.
Yadavochamritam Mune.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya
Maya Proktam Hi Lokasya
Pramanam Satya Laukike
Pramanam Satya Laukike
Athajani Maya Tubhyam
Athajani Maya Tubhyam
Yadavochamritam mune.
Yadavochamritam mune.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Maya proktam hi lokasya Pramanam satya laukike
Pramanam satyalaukike
Atatnyani maya tupyam
Tathajani maya tubhyam
Yad avochamritam mune
Yadavochamritam mune. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maya proktam hi lokasya Pramanam satyalaukike Atajani maya tubhyam Yadavochamritam mune. Online.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Maya proktam hi lokasya
Maya proktam hi lokasya
Pramanam satya laukike
Pramanam satyalaukike
Athajani maya tubhyam
Atajani maya tubhyam
Yadavochamritam mune.
Yadavochamritam mune.
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
मया प्रोक्तं हि लोकस्य
Maya proktam hi lokasya
प्रमाणं सत्यलौकिके
Pramanam satyalaukike
अथा जनीमया तुभ्यं
Atajani maya tubhyam
यदवोचमृतं मुने.
Yadavochamritam mune.
That's everyone.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Maya, by me, proktam, spoken, he, in fact, lokasya, for the people, pramanam, authority, satya, spoken in scripture, laukike, and in ordinary speech, ata, therefore, ajani, there was birth, maya, by me, tobhyam, to you, yet, that which, avocham, I said, ritam, true, mune, O sage. Translation. The personality of Godhead, Kapila, said, whatever I speak, whether directly or in the scriptures, is authoritative in all respects for the people of the world. O Muni, because I told you before that I would become your son, I have descended to fulfill this truth. Purport. Kardama Muni was to leave his family life to completely engage in the service of the Lord. But since he knew that the Lord himself, Kapila, had taken birth in his home as his own son, why was he preparing to leave home to search out self-realization or God-realization? God himself was present in his home. Why should he leave home? Such a question may certainly arise. But here it is said that whatever is spoken in the Vedas and whatever is practiced in accordance with the injunctions of the Vedas is to be accepted as authoritative in society. Vedic authority says that a householder must leave home after his 50th year. Pancha shodrvam vanam brajet. One must leave his family life and enter the forest after the age of 50. This is an authoritative statement of the Vedas based on the division of social life into 4 departments of activity: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. Kardama Muni practiced yoga very rigidly as a brahmachari before his marriage, and he became so powerful and attained so much mystic power that his father, Brahma, ordered him to marry and beget children as a householder. Kardama did that also. He begot 9 good daughters and 1 son, Kapila Muni, and thus his householder duty was also performed nicely. And now his duty was to leave. Even though he had the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he had to respect the authority of the Vedas. This is a very important lesson. Even if one has God in his home as his son, one should still follow the Vedic injunctions. It is stated, Mahajano Yenagata Sapanta. One should traverse the path which is followed by great personalities. Kardama Muni's example is very instructive, for in spite of having the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he left home just to obey the authority of the Vedic injunction. Kardama Muni states here the main purpose of his leaving home while traveling all over the world as a mendicant. He would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart and thereby be freed from all the anxieties of material existence. In this age of Kali Yuga, sannyas is prohibited because persons in this age are all Shudras and cannot follow the rules and regulations of sannyas life. It is very commonly found that so-called sannyasis are addicted to nonsense, even to having private relationships with women. This is the abominable situation in this age. Although they dress themselves as sannyasis, they still cannot free themselves from the 4 principles of sinful life, namely illicit sex life, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. Since they are not freed from these 4 principles, they are cheating the public by posing as swamis. In Kali Yuga, the injunction is that no one should accept sannyas. Of course, those who actually follow the rules and regulations must take sannyas. Generally, however, people are unable to accept sannyas life, and therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stressed, Kalau nasteva gatiranyata. In this age, there is no other alternative than to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. The main purpose of sannyas life is to be in constant companionship with the Supreme Lord, either by thinking of Him within the heart or hearing of Him through oral reception. In this age, hearing is more important than thinking, because one's thinking may be disturbed by mental agitation. But if one concentrates on hearing, he will be forced to associate with the sound vibration of Krishna. Krishna and the sound vibration Krishna are non-different. So if one loudly vibrates Hare Krishna, he will be able to think of Krishna immediately. This process of chanting is the best process of self-realization in this age. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya preached it so nicely for the benefit of all humanity. Hare Krishna, thank you for being here. So we would love to hear from His Holiness Danavir Maharaj or from Krishna Shravana Prabhu. Please let us know if you can share any instructions. So, can we adjust this mic properly? Can you lower the sensitivity? Thank you. So, here Kapila Dev is actually saying that whatever I speak, whether directly or in the scriptures, is authoritative in all respects for the people. O Muni, because I told you before that I would become your son, I have descended to fulfill this truth. So, Prabhupada in the purport is describing how Kapila Dev has actually appeared in the family of Kardama Muni, so why would Kardama Muni try to leave home? Right? And the point that's being made here is that it's an authoritative injunction of the scriptures that at 50 years one should panchashodhvam vanam vrajet. Panchashodhvam vanam vrajet. One must leave his family life and enter the forest after the age of 50. This is an authoritative statement of the Vedas based on the division of social life into 4 departments of activity: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So, this is saying that we have to follow the Vedas, and Prabhupada mentions that this is a very important lesson. Even if one has God in his home as his son, one should still follow the Vedic injunctions. As it is stated, Mahajano Yanagata Sapanta, one should traverse the path which is followed by great personalities. So the point which is being made here is that Kardama Muni, even though he was graced by the Lord's presence in his home as his own son, he decided to follow the injunctions of the Shastras. And he, being such a great personality, a Mahajan, we should follow in his footsteps. And we should also take this mood, that we should follow the injunctions of the scriptures. And Prabhupada then goes on to actually describe that sannyas life is actually forbidden in Kali Yuga, and we can understand that that is for the impersonalists. Those who are devotees of the Supreme Lord may take sannyas, but very, very carefully. And it was mentioned here that following the rules and regulations of sannyas life is generally, Prabhupada says it here very plainly, in this age of Kali Yuga, sannyas is prohibited because persons in this age are all Shudras and cannot follow the rules and regulations of sannyas life. Then Prabhupada describes, it is very commonly found that so-called sannyasis are addicted to nonsense, even to having private relationships with women. This is the abominable situation in this age. So this is very common for persons who are so-called sannyasis or swamis or rinpoches or gurujis or Swamijis or, Prabhujis or this and that, right? And that those who do not have devotion to Krishna and do not follow strictly the rules and regulations of the Shastras in regards to avoiding sinful life, they become trapped into sinful activity, and they generally have relationship with the opposite gender in private, and they have some scandal, or they engage in intoxication, or they have some meat eating habits, or some gambling habits or sporting habits that they do on the side behind closed doors. And this is what's called a pretender. So actually Lord Krishna speaks about this in Bhagavad Gita, and he actually describes how to be a pretender is not pleasing to him. And this is actually the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement, is to actually transform the inside to the high ideals that we exhibit externally. So we're asked to practice 4 for regulations and to worship the Supreme Lord with a regulative principle of chanting, of serving the deity, hearing Bhagavatam, eating only prasadam, and so on and so forth, like that. And the whole idea is that we may be following, right? And Prabhupada discusses that a neophyte follows because he kind of has an innocence to him and he has good association. It kind of becomes the thing to do, socially. And he has a little bit of inclination for the process of devotional service, but he doesn't have strong faith in the Shastras, right? So when it says at 50 you have to leave home, right? Then somebody without faith will maybe not take that as, as the rule. Now, what we can understand is, and we'll get to this point, Prabhupada in the purport, he gives the ultimate instruction of the Shastras for Kali Yuga is simply to chant. Right? Simply to chant the holy name. So, that always has to be discussed when we talk about rules of the Shastras and following the rules of the Shastras. That's the main rule for Kali Yuga, which is exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, sometimes there's this mood that I can give up all the other rules because I'm chanting. And actually, this is actually discussed in the Ramayana. And there is a portion where Hanuman actually returns from Lanka after he actually visited Sita and he burned the city there. And he meets with Lord Ramachandra, and Lord Ramachandra actually expounds to him the qualities of different levels of disciples. And he says that not a very high-grade disciple is one who never tries to do more than what the Guru has personally asked him to do. Right? Even though he follows, he may follow whatever he's been directly asked to do, but he doesn't take up the mood and mission and give his full energy, even though he has capacity. So this is actually, we always have to think about that, is that, yes, for Kali Yuga, we are asked simply to chant the holy name, but by the mercy of the holy name, we may get potency and empowerment to do more in one sense. By the power of the holy name, we may be empowered to distribute prasadam. We may be empowered to distribute books. We may be empowered to perform deity worship. We may be empowered to follow the regulative principles. We may be empowered to live a devotional lifestyle in accordance with, abstaining from illicit activities or work that is related to illicit activities. By the power of the holy name, we may get that potency. We may have that ability. And actually, that's what we should be careful that, okay, if we know better and we can do better, right? If we know better and we can do better by the mercy of the holy name, then we may want to do that for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and the Guru Parampara. So that's actually, that always has to be, to put in place. Nobody can follow strictly in the sense that not everything can be applied perfectly from the Shastras, except by chanting the holy name. Then actually one can actually achieve all the aims of the Shastras. But if I avoid following what I could follow, and I say, because I'm chanting, I don't have to do it, then we have to be very careful that that has been exemplified by Srila Prabhupada. where he said, we don't have to do this because we're preaching and we're chanting, then we can know. If I, on my own, exclude, then I may not be following the Mahajans. I may be cutting my own path a little bit. Even though I can philosophically or I can logically justify it, but I have to see from the example of the Mahajans. Because we have something. Let's try to fix that mic nicely.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Maharaj.
You have to take...
So, try to give one example of that. Okay, here. Srila Prabhu, when he was in Chicago in 1975, he was on a morning walk, and I was also present there. And some of the devotees, disciples of Prabhupada, I asked him about chanting more rounds than 16 on Ekadashi days. They said, can we chant 25? Or should the devotees chant 25? And Prabhupada said, yes, you can chant 25, you can chant up to 64 or more. And the devotees wanted more clarification. I said, yes, but should all the devotees chant 25? Prabhupada repeated what he said the first time. And then again, he said, should they chant 25? He said, but if the devotees are preaching, like you're all distributing books, then actually they don't have to follow all these other things. And then the devotees kind of smiled, looked at each other, and Prabhupada said, but they shouldn't take it. Meaning they shouldn't take the opportunity to not follow the principles. At least 16 rounds he had given, so he didn't want less than that. If they could do more, that was all right. But the preaching is so important that actually you could replace the others. The Panchatriki Vidi and the Bhagavad Vidi. Bhagavad Vidi is more important. But still they should both be kept because they act as the two rails of a train, keeping the train on the track properly. The Panchatriki Vidi gives the devotees cleanliness and punctuality and austerity and things like that. That's one example. Another example is the case of Madhavendra Puri. There was a Brahmin. He was I think a Sanodiya Brahmin. It's not considered to be the highest grade of Brahmin. And so sometimes such persons, one doesn't take meals from them, the sannyasis, Mayavadi sannyasis especially. So Lord Chaitanya came to this place where there was a disciple or a person who was present, lived there, and he had a visitation by Madhavendra Puri. Because Madhavendra Puri was a great acharya even prior to Lord Chaitanya's appearance. Because he ate the meal cooked by this Brahmin, Lord Chaitanya considered it was proper for him to also take the meal. Because it was, although there may have been some regulation against it somewhere, but because a great Mahajan had set the standard, or set the example, then it could be followed simply on that basis. Mahajano Yena Gata Sabanta. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Amazing.
points which is mentioned here is that no other alternative than to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Then thinking. Because one's thinking may be disturbed by mental agitation, but if one concentrates on hearing, he will be forced to associate with the sound vibration of Krishna. Amazing. This is the concept. So if we want to know what Prabhupada was his example, then we have to hear about him. We have to hear his words. We have to hear his lectures. We have to hear his books. We have to hear his devotees speak about him and enlighten us with what is his example. And if we just give our entire life to studying Prabhupada, then Krishna will surely be pleased with our process, with our dedication to Shravana. And our mind will be a non-factor, you could say. This is actually the concept. Say certain persons are more philosophical, right? They like to consider things. They want to analyze and logically understand and organize concepts in their minds. Some would call this the field of ideas. And such persons may have somewhat, by the mercy of the holy name, have some sort of Brahminical leanings, right? And other persons are inclined with certain other mental activities. And other persons are inclined with other mental activities. Other persons are inclined with other mental activities, like this. And therefore there's the varnas, right, which organize the society. But the concept is that all these people are thinking so many things, asking so many different questions based on their interest and their nature. Right? But if we don't inject the transcendental sound vibration into the mind, or into the intelligence, we don't upgrade our intelligence with that transcendental sound vibration of Krishna, then the mind will be the worst of enemies. Right? And this is the idea, is that instead of speculating, then we can just hear. Instead of trying to figure things out in one sense, on our own, that we can just hear. Now, if we've heard sufficiently, then we can remember what we heard. This is also a type of hearing, actually. This is the fruit of hearing, you could say. If we heard what Prabhupada said about this and that, when those things happen in my life, then I can actually recall those things. Then my mind becomes a best friend. Because now I remember what Prabhupada said, and I'm actually hearing it again. And also when we chant, when we repeat what Prabhupada said. That's why actually Prabhupada discussed, you take two vows. Only take Krishna Prasadam, and only speak what Krishna said. It's only speak about Krishna. These two things, That means service to Krishna. It's Krishna's devotees, Krishna's paraphernalia, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's philosophy, XYZ. It's also Krishna. And you administer different medicine at different times. So there's one thing, is that if I always speak what Krishna said, I always speak Krishna conscious philosophy, right, then I'm always hearing Krishna conscious philosophy. That's a concept. But Prabhupada has actually discussed that a neophyte devotee, he should practice actually saying verbatim what he heard from the spiritual master. And then at a certain point, he may be able to actually, elaborate, right? So this is actually something that the acharyas, they do what they write. Like Prabhupada, they reference, they read exactly what Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said, and what Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, and what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, and so on and so on. And they just write the purport like that, exactly what they said. So it's very amazing, the writing process of the acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, and others, like His Holiness Dhanavir Goswami Maharaj, are following in their footsteps, and they're emphasizing this hearing. They're chanting, but they're hearing, because they're chanting exactly what was spoken by the acharyas. So, thank you very much, devotees.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Does anybody have anything here? Srimad Bhagavatam Pujaya.